Okay, hey everyone. So I finally watched last night in Soho and I decided to do something a bit different. We're not going to really be doing a video essay or like a ranking or anything like that. I'm actually going to do a movie review of it, which I hardly ever do in this channel. So, yeah, we're going to do that, I guess. Now, it seems that Edgar Wright is trying to expand his horizons with Baby Driver and Last Night in Soho because he's using different genres that he didn't do with his last four films. Because Edgar Wright came up as a comedy director, and for his first four films were just comedies. Shaun of the Dead, people say, is a horror movie, but let's be honest, it's a parody of horror films, and I think there is a difference when it comes to horror movies and parodying off of a horror film. So I do see the difference in that. But what I'm saying is that Edgar Wright before Baby Driver didn't really do anything besides comedies, and it seems like since Baby Driver, he has expanded his horizons in the type of films that he can make. And I think overall that's a good thing for him as a director. It shows that he's not just going to be using the one trick pony constantly. It shows that he can do a lot more. And I think in this film, that definitely does come up a lot. And it's definitely very different from what Edgar Wright's previous works have been. Now, the main question that we are all asking is, did it pay off? And I would overall say that it kind of did, somewhat. But starting with the positives, I would say one of the greatest parts about this movie is the visuals. The visuals are really great and well done. No surprise because Edgar Wright directed it. He really is just someone that has an eye for visuals and just understands just how to make something look beautiful, especially in like this when she goes back in time to the 60s or has flashbacks and scenes of of being in the 60s. We're not fully sure exactly how that stuff works. It's not exactly explained, but it doesn't really need to be explained. So, I mean, I don't exactly mind it that much. Feel like it's something that the mystery behind that idea works well enough and works more to its advantage than just having a massive exposition scene. But yeah, talking about the visuals, they are really great. They are really pretty, and I think just the way that they're just incorporated into the movie is very interesting, and it's, it's just a joy to look at. If I'm being honest, there are some great ways that they use the visuals colorizing with using green, red, different color schemes, and different just different ways to utilize how how they want to incorporate it into the film. It's hard to exactly explain why I love it so much. I just love it. Another great thing about this movie, I will say, is the fact that it doesn't overblow you with 60s references. And I think that's a good thing, to be honest. I'm glad they didn't overblow me with 60s this, 60s that. It's very subtle with the way it will occasionally reference something from the 60s, and it hardly ever references anything from the 60s. And I appreciate that more. Another thing that's great about this film is the twists. Well, I wouldn't say they're great, but they're decent. And I think that somewhat helps the film in a way. They're not amazing, but they're pretty good, and I think I like the way they're conveyed. I thought overall the twists were very creative, interesting, and overall just gave me something to think about. I feel like there's definitely this massive message about idolization and idolizing celebrities, of how we in a way kind of treat them as gods, angels, and people that are innocent, and then but in reality they turn out not to be. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but this is what I picked up from it. Maybe I'm wrong, but in a way, Luis kind Luis, I think that's how you pronounce it, sort of idolizes this person as this god, as someone that she really, really loves and thinks is an angel, and was very much a tortured victim of some sort. That's how it seems to kind of play out in the movie. But then she realizes that she wasn't really that great of a person, and at the end, they were all messed up, which is interesting to say the least, because it shows not everyone is really a great person, and a lot of people aren't that great of people, and a lot of people in many situations are all scummy, which is, I think, shown in this film. I don't know if that's what Edgar Wright intended, But this is stuff I sort of started picking up a bit when it came to the film, and but also with how subtle I think it was portrayed. I feel like if that was the intent for the message, I do very much credit him for that because he did it in a very subtle way. It wasn't on your nose. It was something I just kind of picked up a bit, and I was like, huh. It gives you a lot to think about overall. It really gives you something to just kind of contemplate in your head. Moving on to the negatives, I'd say one of my biggest negatives is that Luis just isn't that very interesting of a character. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but I don't really care. So yeah, I'm just not gonna pronounce it correctly because I don't feel like it. But yeah, overall, I just don't find it that very interesting of a character. I think she does kind of touch into the themes a bit, but there's just nothing about her as a character that pops out beyond the fact that she really idolizes this lady. She doesn't seem like a very interesting character or at all, especially for an Edgar Wright character. With almost every single Edgar Wright character, there's something about them that pops, that makes them interesting, that makes them just makes you want to know more about them. But she just isn't that interesting. She doesn't have that Edgar Wright flair in her, I feel like, compared to other characters. Even Baby has this sort of like Edgar Wright isms to with the way he's written as a character and the way he's portrayed as a character. I'm not saying that she has to be exactly like all the other characters that Edgar Wright has had, but she just doesn't seem like a very interesting character really in any way. And I feel like because she just doesn't have anything that pops about her, she just kind of feels forgotten in the mix of the entire film. Okay, for the most part, that's really all I have to say about the movie. I think it just really left me disappointed. Not exactly upset or angry or frustrated, but disappointed. So yeah, I guess frustrated. You could say that. I think Edgar Wright can make something so much better than this, and I feel like he just needs to express it more. I feel like he just needs to push it more with the characters, and mainly that's it. I think with this, if the character was a lot more interesting and a lot more flair to her, I feel like this could have been a lot more of a better film. I feel like Edgar Wright just needs to put a bit more life into these types of movies. Not exactly like his other comedies, as in adding comedy to it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just little bit more um power to it. A bit more of an umph. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I feel like he just needs to add so much more to his films. A little bit more, you know, interesting ideas than well what we got was interesting. I just think that it didn't exactly stick the landing because of the not very interesting characters and just not being a completely interesting story. I feel like Edgar Wright just needs to just add some more ideas and flavor. And I feel like he would make a pretty great film. But overall, I'd say this is decent, just not exactly where I would want it to be. So I would give it a 7 out of 10 overall.